Greetings, and welcome to Live from Caid. Tonight's special guest is the Society Marshal for the SCA, Master Alan Gravesend, and featuring a live music performance by Sir Mons Von Goarshausen. Me, I'm your announcer, Master Beorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Laertes, McBride.
Good evening and greetings. I hope everyone's doing well and had the best week that they could since last time we were together. I appreciate you tuning in tonight. We have a great show coming up, but one of the things we want to get out of the way, of course, is just a little update since last time we talked on last Monday. Their Majesties, of course, made the announcement that given the ongoing situation, that all May events have been canceled in the kingdom. And I know there were some really amazing things planned for the month of May, but we'll get through this together. And speaking of which, a reminder that there's the online court on Saturday starting at 1 o'clock, and it'll be through the Zoom platform. Details on how to get on the Zoom, as they call it, will be posted on the Facebook group and through other social media. Enough of just me. Let's bring Beorn in. He'll be here in just a moment. And hey, Beorn, how are you? Hold on. I have to hit this button right here to get you on screen, because otherwise they don't see you. So how was your week?
It was really quite nice. We had a lot of good people that were doing a lot of great things for the first responders all across the society, and also for those people that both take care of people with compromised immune systems or for the elderly. They were making a lot of masks. One person in particular that sent one to me, I would like to thank Milady Magdalena from Meridies, who sent me this mask. It's got black widows on one side, and then it has cobwebs on the other. It's double-sided. So I guess that means that really you don't want to get closer than 6 feet to me. I just thank you, Magdalena. I really appreciate it. And I'm not sure how to take it other than thanks. It was very pretty.
Well, I think it's appropriate you thanked her on the web for your spider mask.
Well said, sir.
Hey, speaking of online court, one of the things we wanted to announce today is from noon to 12:45 on Saturday, we're going to do a live version of the show, kind of like a Oscar pre-show, except we won't be reviewing fashion. We're going to have some special guests that come in. We're going to have some special messages from people. So be sure to tune in on Saturday from noon to 12:45. We're going to have, like I said, we're going to have just a little pre-show right here, and you'll hear Beorn and I kind of prattle as we do. So, I think with all that out of the way, let's talk about your ANS findings for the week.
Thank you. So I wanted to do something sort of earlier period and later period, though these are both sort of Northern European websites, at least the way their focus. The first one is an oldie but a goodie. A lot of us know it very well, and it is the Viking Answer Ladies website. It's recently been revamped and redone, and she's, of course, handles a lot of Scandinavian, Norse work, both costuming, jewelry, all of the manner of accessories that go along with Viking and Nordic life. And it's an excellent website. Many of us have used it for several years.
Cool.
The second one, this one is later period, and this one also is for Northern and Central Europe. And this one is actually run by our own Viscountess Wilhelmina de Cotia, and it's Willia's Corner. And this is her website that ties in with her patterns and mock-ups out of muslin for Landsknecht and camp follower gear for 15th and 16th century pieces, mostly Germanic and Northern. And of course, it's a fantastic resource, and we're very lucky that she tries to keep everything up to date for us.
That's awesome. Taking the opportunity right now as we're at home to kind of expand our knowledge and leverage the research and the guidance that other people have out there, I think is an awesome thing. So.
Oh, and we're very fortunate that we have so many talented people. As a matter of fact, with the Viking Answer Lady, her very first work that she did that ended up on the site actually was some of her work she did for her Laurel back in the early 90s. And she just transferred that via like Netscape. That's how long ago this was, to get it onto the website. So it's been on the web in one form or another for over 20 years now.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, I think people had enough of us because they're not tuning in to watch us. So I think we're going to turn it over to our first guest tonight. So Beorn, we'll hear you, but we won't see you for a little bit, okay? So tonight we have the opportunity to speak directly to the Society Marshal. So let's bring him in. That'd be Master Alan Gravesend. He's going to be here in just a moment. Hey, Alan.
Good evening, Laertes. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hunkered down in the bunker here.
So your bunker's located in which kingdom?
In the kingdom of Atlantia.
Oh, that's right. So you're over there on the East Coast where it's lots of fun.
Indeed, and a little darker just now.
Really?
So we had serious torrential thunderstorms in addition to a few tornadoes around the area,
right,
along with much greater damage further south of us. But it's been quite a day here. Had a river running through the backyard, which is not a usual feature.
So it's an added bonus. Yeah, we had rain pretty much all last week out here in California, which is odd for us because normally we get that in February and then we're done. So
indeed.
Let's kind of talk about the position. You're the Society Marshal. So really, what does that mean? What's that office really do?
What does that mean? I'm responsible for every combat and combat-related activity that happens in the 20 known world kingdoms. Anything from thrown weapons to armored combat to equestrian to rapier. I administer 20 Earl Marshals, warrant those along with the crowns. And also I have 7 deputies for each of the discipline areas. And we work to coordinate all the activities in the kingdoms, answer questions, put forward policies, take in policy suggestions, take in experimental suggestions, and process through what seems to be a reasonable methodology for us, and make recommendations to the board for changes as necessary. If we have a safety concern or something new and neat that we can all play at, and it seems to be safe and period and a good idea, we try to put that forward.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, all your predecessors were really more armored combat centric in their background, where you are kind of a little multidisciplined. Is that correct?
I can only really claim 2 disciplines. I started out in armored combat back in 1982 because that's all there was out here.
Right.
And, fought that pretty exclusively for 5 to 7 years, and then Master Giacomo came and was a good instructor, and I kind of shifted over to the rapier field at that point. But I fought armored combat along the way, all the way through there, and have continued to marshal it a great deal. Marshaled many crown tournaments, among other things. So yeah, but I can't really claim expertise in the areas like youth combat or equestrian and so forth. And I rely on my deputies for that.
Right. I mean, so really you have, even though you have like a solid background in the rapier field, you have a rapier deputy that oversees that, and you're just kind of the administrative lead for all the deputies, correct?
Yeah, administrator and also the naysayer. I apply a risk management kind of an approach to this, going, what are the benefits, what are the costs of this, what are the risks, and what do we get out of it when we're trying to make a change?
Right. And what's your background for that? I mean, outside the SCA.
Well, for about 20 years, I worked for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and I was in network and security operations. Been through many audits and many security and network incidents. I spent far more time up at 2 o'clock in the morning than I really care for. But also have done a good deal of planning and working with the National Institute of Standards and Technology risk management frameworks which means I speak risk in ways that most of you would never want to. So,
well, you know, some people might want to talk that way. I mean,
true.
Not me.
I'm available at marshal@sca.org. Send me a question.
So, what would you say? So, just as a note, you've put out a call for a replacement, and you're starting to transition out, right? So, how long have you been in the position?
Just about 5 years now.
So, what would you say is the one thing that surprised you most over the 5 years in your position?
To be honest, the thing that surprised me the most was the fact that I don't get email.
Really?
I mean, I get a fair amount, obviously, in the normal conduct of the office and participation in various lists and so forth. But despite the fact that I have probably one of the most recognized or recognizable emails in the Society Marshal at SCA.org, very few people write me.
So I was going to say to me, that means most people get mad at their local marshal for their kingdom as opposed to you. So that's perfect structure, I would think.
You would think.
And what would be your most rewarding experience at this level of a marshalate position?
At this point in time, the fact that we have managed to add some new things over the years, the fact that we're about to bring cut and thrust melee in, the fact that we're bringing in some rattan spears for rapier combat. I have a 18-month-old combat with steel swords for armored combat that is coming to fruition. I'm probably going to be putting forward in my next quarterly report to the board to be added to the Marshal's Handbook. You know, the correct way to look at this is I feel like I've added more opportunities for people to play in the society. The incorrect way to look at it is to say that I'm getting the kids sugared up and then I'm going to leave.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about writing new rules and then leaving. So, so you know, from being at Atlantia, y'all have a big presence at Penzig, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I know Penzig's still up in the air. I saw a notice from the mayor of Penzig today that they're weighing all their options. They're going to have the goal of being out there by mid-May and making a decision whether they're going to proceed or not. And of course, Penzig's the largest event, basically, for everyone gathers at. Is that kind of like your threshold when you're looking at things that can be added or not, of what could be safely done at the largest event, or does it play any role when you're looking at stuff?
When I think about that question, I think about reading the many injury reports I get, and they come from multiple different venues. Anything from practices where a guy in armor decides to do a pratfall, he gets hit and he falls straight down like a tree,
right,
and manages to land with his head first on the concrete, to big, huge melees like Penzig. So I really try to keep an eye on all of the above. But yeah, big melees kind of loom large because things that nobody would ever have thought of actually occur there.
Right, right. Well, it's because you just have such a confluence of people from everywhere getting together.
Well, and everybody trying really hard to win, and that's not necessarily in concert with everybody else that's out there.
Right.
Things will happen.
True. So the Atlantean Rapier Corps has kind of a reputation, right? How do they self-identify? Don't they call themselves? What do they call themselves?
Something or other about Atlantean thugs. You know.
Oh, the Atlantean thugs. That's right. Well, you know,
they may perhaps resemble that a little bit.
I actually have some video from last time I was at Penzig that might kind of reinforce that.
Mm.
So here, let me show it and let me know what you think. Here we go. So that's pretty much a line charge that they do, right?
Well, your video froze on me, so I really can't really judge it completely. But we do tend to attack with violence.
So let's see. Let's see if there's any questions that we have from people that are watching tonight. It's an opportunity, since no one's into email, to ask you any questions.
While you're looking, Laertes, Master Alan, one of the questions that has been sent to me is, what briefly is the process someone goes through to start an experimental combat program in the society?
Mm-hmm. Briefly, you should work with your local marshalate, whatever discipline it is. Typically, experiments come up through the discipline deputies because they tend to be specialized kinds of things. So armored experiments come up through Valharic. Rapier experiments are going to come up through Razi. And essentially, we'll go through a process of negotiation. What I want to see is an experiment that actually is going to have a result. And I look at three kinds of things. Is it going to improve gameplay? Is it going to make it more fun for us? It's going to let us do something from a period perspective that we haven't had a chance to do before. Is it going to improve safety? Okay. In other words, can we use a new material that will work better than what we've been using? And finally, is it going to actually make our combat more period? Because if we could have things on the field that looked more correct by changing materials that we use or techniques that we use, then that's also something will be considered somewhere in there. Typically, then there's actually a form we set up that describes the experiment, what the process is going to be, what the limits are going to be, how long we expect it to run, what the reporting cadence is going to be. That comes up to me. I'll sign off on it or not, because the Society Marshal is the only one who can sign off on experiments. Once that's signed off on, then each kingdom can join it. I've been requiring each of the experiments when they go into a kingdom to have a sign off from the Earl Marshal as well, because I don't want to be instituting something that's going to be happening in somebody's kingdom and the Earl Marshal doesn't know about it.
Thank you, sir.
Of course.
And then another question, because the Rapier rules just came out, the updated book, which I believe they have till the middle of August to come in compliance with, the kingdoms do.
Correct.
I believe it. I'll get to the gist of it. So added into the Rapier combat rules was combat archery for on the Rapier field. Mm-hmm. And there's been some questions about how they arrived at the poundage and the type of bows, and the type of arrows and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't, because, Aidenveld had a program running that was similar, and Caid kind of picked it up a bit. And it's different than what was being run under that. And I think the poundage is actually lower, and not all the arrows that were being played with are in there. Do you know anything about that? Is that a Razi question, or?
Well, some of the details about exactly how the various committees came to the conclusions that they did rolled up to me, but Razi might be able to answer more detail about exactly what that process was. We based it on experience. We based it on what was shared with those committees. I based my decision reading through it, seeing that there was nothing different than what I saw in the armored field. And I relied on my experience as a past KRM, because when combat archery was considered here in Atlantia, I went out and had a whole bunch of local combat archers shoot me. A lot.
Right.
Yes, it hurt, but it wasn't dangerous. In fact, I had them shoot me in the back of the head, and they were very good, accurate archers, so I had to tell them not to shoot me on the tab of my fencing mask, but to shoot me over here where it wasn't. And yes, it was unpleasant, and I wouldn't want to do it all day by any means, but it seemed to be okay. The one thing that we did add in at the last minute that the committees didn't talk about was a requirement that we use the same kinds of combat archery tip construction that we do on the armored field. And that was based on the idea that we've got, 40 years of experience with that, and it seemed like a good place to start. Now, remember, their society rules, they set the outer edge of what's allowed. Kingdoms can have things within that. They can down the poundage. They can down the weight of the projectiles. They can put other restrictions that they deem wise. And we can also have an ongoing conversation about what we need to do with these rules.
Right, because the rules are a living document. They're not set in stone, and everyone just kind of goes through them. They should adjust and be malleable depending on what happens as we move forward. Right?
They had better be from a risk management point of view.
Right.
Because we learn stuff every time somebody gets hurt.
Oh, true. True. I mean, you know, so basically the takeaway is if you have questions or comments about the any of the changes, especially when it comes to the new Rapier handbook that just came out, talk to Alan's deputy, because they were in the weeds on that discussion. I believe her email is rapier@sca.org, right?
Yeah, another one of those really hard to derive addresses.
Right.
And who could figure that out?
All righty. So before we let you go, one of the things Beorn and I like to do is just kind of, you know, have a little fun with it. And, you know, you've been the Society Marshal for 5 years now. And you've had the opportunity to work closely with people from all around the world. So we're going to play just a quick game with you, if you'd indulge us. And it's going to be called, what's it called?
The Society Marshal's Society.
Oh, that's right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 90 seconds, right? 90 seconds. And in that time, I just need you to list off all 20 kingdoms. Right? Because you've worked with them all, so you don't even have to do it alphabetically. So let's see how many you can knock out. Are you ready? Oh, no cheating. I see you getting ready to serve. No, no, no.
Pete, I'm merely using a reference work.
Okay, are you ready?
Sure.
And go. You can get one of them.
So Atlantia, clearly. I mean, you know, Athelmark, Anstiora, Antir, Artemisia, Aitenveld, Avakal, Caid, Callantir, Drakenwald, Eldermere, East, Glenavon, Lochok, Meridies, Middle, Northshield, Outlands, Trimaris, and West.
Wow, that is amazing. It's like you just have it on the top of your head.
Right.
Oh, man.
Points for alphabetical order. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I know. That is amazing.
Now, let me fess up. I actually just used the normal form that I use for his reports come in. I just use a checkoff list. So, yes, I cheated.
So I have
remember all those A kingdoms.
I have one last question, and I'm not really sure the context. So,
Okay.
What about siege weapons, since there are so many groups beginning to build them? So I don't know what the siege weapons falls under the armored combat handbook, correct?
And it also falls under my deputy for siege weapons,
right?
Sean O'Malley. So he's at siege@sca.org. We have all these really hard to figure out email addresses. Sorry.
Well, Alan, I know it's late for you. You're on the East Coast. I do appreciate your time today. Full disclosure, I had the opportunity to work with Alan as the Society Rapier Marshal for a part of my tenure. And I really appreciate the guidance and the investment you had on pretty much anything that came up. And especially taking time tonight here just to kind of explain the job and everything that kind of falls under your purview. I really do appreciate it.
Laertes, you did a great job as Society Rapier Marshal, and it was a very great pleasure to work with you as well.
Well, thank you. I set that up. I appreciate it. Well, you have a good evening. Stay healthy. Wash your hands, and we're going to bring Beorn on now. But thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We'll see you later.
Everybody.
All righty. Well, hi, Beorn.
Well, that was fantastic and very informative. So I knew that when you were Society Rapier Marshal, you had worked with Alan some. I just wasn't sure how long you overlapped.
Yeah, it was, let's see, I did it for 4 years. So I believe I did it, we overlapped for about half of it, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to just do a shout out before we bring our musical talent on, but they disconnected and then they came back on and now they're sideways.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're going to disconnect and reconnect because they're sideways right now.
Okay. Well, that's one way to come at a problem.
Or he could just play it sideways. I mean, that'd be kind of awesome.
That weapon can be. Some people consider it not just a musical instrument, but a formidable weapon. Yes.
Nope. That was no. Wait. Yes. No. Hold on. Hey, this is live, by the way. There we go. Now you have the orientation right. So I would wait for them just to reset and recenter. Next Monday we'll have another show because surprisingly we've been picked up for a couple more weeks with the extension of the of it. One of the things I want to ask for people is if there's someone you'd like to see, or if there's a bardic performance you'd like to hear, just reach out to Beorn or I, because we want to get information out to everyone, and we want to entertain and have that connection with you. So if there's someone you're looking for, or someone you would enjoy talking to or hearing from, please let us know. And then as I kind of went on a left turn as I was talking to our guest, next week, we have scheduled their highnesses to be here to answer questions. And our musical guest is Mistress, I have it over here, Mistress Mary's going to be here.
Wonderful.
Former Bard of Caid. Mm-hmm. So if you'd like to talk about who our next musical guest is, it appears they're ready to go.
Absolutely. So we are very fortunate to have this gentle join us. And the instrument that they will be playing first started showing up in the 10th century. At the time, it was called the organistrum. And it was actually, at the time, played by two people, one operating the manuals and the other person turning the wheel crank. Now, we know that today as the hurdy-gurdy. But if there's one man that could take a two-person job and do it by himself, it would be none other than our great Caidan hurdy-gurdy player himself, Sir Mons Von Goarshausen, and we're very fortunate to have him with us this evening.
Hello.
Hey, where'd I go? Hey, Mons, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, awesome. So I figured out how to work this system now. Hey, thank you for joining us tonight. And so let's talk about the hurdy-gurdy, right? So I know we got a brief little history on it. What's the history of the instrument you're going to be performing?
Well, this is an instrument that's a bit out of our period, but the instrument starts off as a two-person instrument. It was mainly used for monks to chant to for their sessions, but eventually became an instrument that was used for dancing. It fell out of, kind of rose and fell in popularity through the Middle Ages, and by the end of the 16th century, it was not overly popular. The one I'm playing is sort of a early 18th century replica, but there are no existing medieval instruments, so only pictures. But we have a rough idea what they sounded like, and they're basically a mechanical fiddle.
So, do you have more than one? Is that the only one you have?
I currently have two, two different tunings, but I've owned a number of different instruments. I've owned the symphony version, which is the little box-shaped one that some people have seen in paintings or have probably seen people playing. I had a couple of those, but over time bought and sold things, and this is my current instrument that I play most of the time.
Well, I used to have a Zephyr, those little harp things where you just pluck the notes. I'm sure it's just like that. So how long have you been playing a hurdy-gurdy?
I've probably been playing for 20 years, but only for the past 6 or 7 years that I've been playing seriously. I bought one, and no one around to teach me. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how to tune the thing, so I did a lot of just fooling around with it. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I got serious and really sat down to start playing and really mastering the instrument, which I'm still a far way from mastering it, I'm sure.
Now, do you play do you get other musicians around you to play at like events or anything, or is it mainly solo, or what do you do?
Both. It's a great instrument for just solo playing because not only does it have the melody part? There's also a rhythm element to it. But I play with other musicians. I play with other instruments alongside. And I've got my own little sort of group of musicians that we play off and on. You may have heard of us, Fire in the Pipkin. You can find us on SoundCloud.
Oh, well, let me go. And then, aren't you teaching yourself to play another instrument too right now?
Bagpipes.
Bagpipes. So I'm sure your neighbors are big fans.
I play late at night, and you would think that that'd be a problem, but there's a section of the house where I can play, and it's fairly muffled, so the neighbors claim they can't hear me. That's good.
Well, I think like on a Saturday, you should just get right in the middle of your street in your neighborhood and just march down the street playing your bagpipes.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. I'm sure they would all love that.
Well, enough of prattle. People are here to listen to the music you're going to create. So, do you want to talk about the pieces you're going to play?
I'm going to play a little medley of French tunes. They're actually 3 bourrées. The bourrée is a little out of our period. The bourrée doesn't show up until around 1620 or so. But these are 3 nice little lively tunes, and I'm just going to play a nice little medley and move through them quickly. Normally these songs would be played over and over and over for dancers so they could continue to dance. But we won't bore people that way, since we're just playing for listening.
Right. Well, I'm going to turn the show over to you, and thank you very much for being here.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Wow.
There we go.
Very nice. I can see Beorn clapping too. Well, thank you very much. That was amazing. It really was, and I'm thoroughly impressed.
While we were waiting, the instrument went out of tune, which happens like at the drop of a hat. So sorry about that.
Thank you, Sir Mons. I appreciate your time today and sharing your talents with everyone. That was very awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Have a good night.
So that's our show. Here comes Beorn. So thank y'all for watching. Thank you, Beorn, for your work today.
Thank you again, sir.
And don't forget to tune in. We're going to have a special show this Saturday from noon to 12:45 as the pre-show leading into the online court with their majesties. Or we'll be celebrating 3 baronies and a shire. And be sure to tune in. The Zoom information will be going on. And then we're back again a week from tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific time. We'll have their highnesses, and we'll have Mistress Mary here to entertain us too. Hey, Beorn, thank you very much. You have a good week, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. And I hope everyone stays safe, wash your hands, and take care of yourselves.
Yes, everyone have a good night. Stay safe. And we will see you next week when we are live from Caid.
Bye, everyone.